Hello everyone, it's Roger here from Diz Kingdom and VinylmationKingdom.com, and I'm just going to quickly run through on this week's episode of the Vinylmation Kingdom webcast. We have got loads of news because last week I didn't do a show because I was on holiday. I headed off to Gran Canaria, which is a small Spanish island off of West Africa, and had a lovely time sat there in the sun. However, I did pick up a bit of a cold, so if I'm a bit sound a bit different this week, that'll be why. Loads of information over the last 2 weeks. I mean, if I picked 2 weeks to go away, this was pretty much the worst 2 weeks to go. First off, I'm going to kick off with some of the good news because there's been a real lot of news come up this week. So first off, what we had was we have launched our new website at diskingdom.com. On this website you will find all loads of information here. You're going to find lots of information about Vinylmations, Disney Infinity, Zoom Zooms, pins, all kinds of stuff. We basically decided to move all of the non-Vinylmation stuff off of Vinylmation Kingdom. We put it all onto diskingdom.com, and we're basically just going to make the Vinylmation Kingdom website just a lot more just Vinylmation specific and allow Diz Kingdom sort of the space to sort of go into other areas. So that's the aim. So Vinylmation Kingdom isn't going anywhere. We just literally decided to jig things around a bit and kind of give a little bit more space for other items. So we've got lots of competitions going on at the minute because of the new launch. I'm giving away a Disneyland Paris Olaf Vinylmation, so you can find all the information on either of the two sites. And we've also got lots of more giveaways coming up at diskingdom.com anyway. Okay, so that was the good news on that one, so here we go. If you haven't already done so, remember to hit that subscribe button. I have actually just realised that I've got the our old Twitter feed. We have changed our Twitter feed over to Diz Kingdom because it was just a lot easier for us to run one Twitter feed for everything. Okay, so on to the news itself. First off, last week we had a couple of new releases, including this Haunted Mansion twin pack featuring Medusa and also gone blank on that, Medusa and quickly gonna try and find that one out. Medusa and Blonde. Okay, it's priced at $29.95. Was designed by Casey Jones and had a limited edition size of 1,000, and it was released at DisneyStore.com and also at both D Street. So that was released at the end of January. Also on the same time, we also had the 101 Dalmatians and the Yoda each is also released at D Streets in Disneyland and Walt Disney World. So that was pretty cool. Also, we had a big new release at Disney stores. We had the new Cinderella Vinylmation series. This was a set of 8, and on this set we had all kinds of good characters, including Cinderella, Prince Charming, Fairy Godmother, Lucifer, Bruno, and a few other ones. Really popular. They have been released at Disneyland Paris. They also released at Disneyland, and also they've been released at Walt Disney World, online at DisneyStore.com, and even on UK website. So they came out about, like I said, about 2 weeks ago. They look all pretty cool. Okay. Right. Sorry about that. Okay, so here we go. So that is the Cinderella set. Then they look pretty cool. Been kind of a lukewarm reception to them. There hasn't been as big a reception as I thought they might have done. I don't know if it's because some of the characters have already been done before, but generally they look pretty cool. I don't know. I mean, I think the Cinderella set is. I think what I'm more worried about was the fact that Enrique Peter basically put out a tweets or a message saying that this was the last Vinylmation set he worked on back in July, and he hasn't worked on anything since. Now, that's not really too good from the Disney Store point of view. I think in general we're going to see a lot less stuff at the Disney Store anyway. We've been seeing it less over the last few years, but there's such a process of when they started doing stuff. If he and other sort of guys like Mendez and Nacho haven't done anything, then that could mean why we're not going to see much more at the Disney stores. Kind of makes sense after what happened with all the superheroes and things like that. It really kind of made the Disney store pretty hard to sort of get rid of Vinylmations. So that's the thing. Big problem for us over here in the UK because basically anything we get is Disney Store releases, so if we don't get anything like that, we might see a lot less. But I think it just comes into this whole thing of Vinylmation retracting and going back to its roots back at the parks. Okay, so Okay, so we also had two other releases this week. First off, we had the Tarzan twin pack, limited edition size 1500, designed by Casey Jones, again priced at $29.95. This was released at D Streets and also online. And then we had the Lilo and Scrump twin pack. Now, again, this was a bit of a mess for the release date. Originally, it was supposed to be out on Friday. It then got announced, got put out saying it was delayed till next week. It then appeared to be at D Streets at Walt Disney World and also at Disneyland. It didn't appear online at DisneyStore.com, so expect that to pop up next week, I suspect. It looks pretty cool. I love the Scrump. I think it would have looked cool as a junior, but I understand why they've done it. And there's been a couple of reports of paint job problems on Lilo. It's been a bit of a problem, but those two look really cool. I really like them. They're kind of sort of a spin-off of the Animation 5 series that we saw last summer. Also, we had some news on Vinylmation Artie is returning for the Radio Disney Music Awards. He will be, this big sort of statue was used for the last 2 years at the event. Looks like it's returning. It's a nice big sort of mould of Vinylmation 9-inch, and they use it as the actual award. They also give out smaller 3-inch ones at the event. People going, so we don't know yet if we're going to see that again, but it looks pretty likely that could be the instance. Okay, so that was a quick run through of all the news. You can find all that information over on Vinylmation Kingdom. I wanted to kind of gloss over that a little bit because there was a major piece of news that went down last week. Actually, there was two bits. First off was the GenEARation. It's the big event that is taking place in Epcot. It is what was in the past. We've had it as the Imagination Gala, Reflections of Evil, Mickey Circus project. So it's going to be taking place on. Let me just find the dates. It's going to be taking place on the 11th and the 12th of September. Sorry about that. Coming back with a cold. I'm just trying to make sure I cover all the news this week. We had loads of information on this. The biggest thing that came through on this was there's going to be no Vinylmation at the event. It literally says at the bottom of the item, it says the GenEARation D event will primarily focus on pin trading. While you're welcome to bring your Vinylmation to trade with other guests, we will not be offering Vinylmation trading activities or selling Vinylmation at the event. Now, this really did kind of hit a big chord because, you know, a lot of Vinylmation fans travel from all over the world to go see this, go see what's coming out new, what's coming out in the year ahead. Huge reaction because a lot of people are like, there's been a lot of stuff around the fact of Vinylmation retracting and getting smaller, and the fact that they've pulled Vinylmation out of their biggest event of the year kind of was quite a worrying sign to a lot of people. I still think, they're still working on Vinylmation. It's just that they are retracting it back to a much smaller object. You're not going to see as many as we used to. There's just going to be a lot less of them. They're kind of following on from the pin thing of bringing it back to the parks. And I think that will make a bit of a difference. Also, with this sort of event, from my personal point of view, it's pretty bad from the fact that we're not going to know what's going to be coming out in the future. The Imagination Gala sets us up last year for what we were going to know for the rest. We still know about some vinyls that are going to be coming out. Without this event, we are completely in the dark, and what's going to happen is we are just going to be finding out about releases the week of them coming out, or maybe a few weeks if we're lucky. Disney have become extremely bad at giving out information. If it wasn't for what we knew at the Imagination Gala, there'd still be sets we don't know about. And that's the biggest thing from my point of view, is fans aren't going to know what's going to be coming out. It's all going to become very last minute. Great if you're at the parks, but if you're not, it's going to become extremely difficult to get hold of new figures. It's hard to budget. If you've got a new 12-piece set like Star Wars coming out and you don't know the date, then it's going to be pretty tricky. But like I said, there's a lot of problems with sort of people buying stuff on DisneyStore.com, things selling out in minutes, people getting up in the middle of the night and them gone. So that is kind of what's going to happen. It's just going to be literally luck of the draw of what's going to come out if we don't know what's coming out in the future. So the big GenEARation E event kind of affects people in a couple of different ways. One way is, like I've said, about not knowing what's coming out in the future. There's also that big element of getting all the die-hard collectors at the parks together to be able to talk about collecting, trading, buying special figures, and in just general, it was just a bad day. It just was a really bad day. On top of that, we had the Enrique Pite news that he hadn't worked on anything for 6 to 8 months, which means again that the Disney stores aren't getting anything. And then finally, we had the news that they are pulling they pulled them out this week of the trade boxes out of the theme parks at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. They're still in Disneyland Paris as of this week, but they're always a bit later than everybody else. So they've pulled them all out of Walt Disney World and Disneyland Paris, Disneyland. They basically brought out all of their old figures and just let people trade. Even saw people taking off the box. So it's been quite a really rough 2 weeks. A lot of sort of speculation, a lot of sort of scaremongering, a lot of people just kind of worried about what's going on. Like I said, Vinylmation isn't going anywhere. It's just retracting. It's going back to its roots, and that means that primarily, one of the big things of why reports have been coming back about these trading boxes, because people have been complaining about what they've been pulling out the trade boxes, which are things like superheroes and all the stuff in the outlets. Disney are now saying, well, people are complaining about it, we're just going to get rid of it. It's kind of a double-edged sword. One side of things, it's not collectors' fault that they've got all these traders that they want to get rid of because they brought them cheap and they took advantage of a situation. There's nothing wrong with that. If you've got figures out there for $1 each, people are going to stack up on them and take them to the parks. But it does mean now, if you're at the park and you pick up a buying box and you don't like it, well, you can't trade it there and then. And I think that was a big selling point. I know I've seen it specifically at the parks myself, that is a great way of getting new people into Vinylmation. So what's going to happen with all of this? It's, like I said, we had a couple of really big, heavy, bad news stories, one after another. And it did put a lot of people, it's really put a bit of a downer on. We've had this in the past. Last year, around the same time, they announced that they would reduce the amount of trade boxes. Now they got rid of them completely. It's, as someone there's a real kind of thing of people that are at the parks, this is a huge thing. For people that are not near the parks, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. If you're going to do it once a year when you're on holiday, it's not going to make a huge difference. But the whole Vinylmation hobby is sliding back into being a very park-centric hobby. Great for locals, but for people away from the parks, if you're at Disney, they need to adjust these DisneyStore.com adjustments to get more stuff online, because if they're only going to go back to parks, they need to, if there's 1,000 of them, they should put a third on each, because at the minute the online version just isn't getting enough for things to sell out, and people are waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, logging on, things are gone in seconds. It ain't going to take too long before you start losing those out-of-towners. And they're a big part of the community. I know, there is a real kind of park and also sort of online and sort of people away from the park. And going back to the park is great for some things, but it is causing problems for a lot of Vinylmation collectors away from the parks that are trying to find it too difficult or starting to become a bit too expensive because they can't order it directly themselves. And also just less, they can't go into a store and pick it up, and it takes a lot of the fun away. So there's lots of other Disney items out there to take your money, and if it gets too difficult, it is going to put people off. But I think that's the way Disney have gone, is going back to being a park item, and that's, it's, in some ways, a lot of people are happy with that. They have brought the chase back, going along every week and just seeing what's coming out and not knowing. Has made it a little bit more exciting, but also it is rather frustrating at the same time. Like I said, just wanted to get like a quick sort of webcast up. It wasn't going to be a long one today because, as you can maybe be able to tell, I'm not exactly I'm kind of a bit bunged up and voice is cracking a little bit. But I just thought I'd just get it out because there's been so much information coming out this week. There's been loads of information, and not only that, we've with us launching this Kingdom, it was kind of ironic that we launched the same week as, or this sort of bad news. It's like, well, we're not getting rid of Vinylmation Kingdom, it's staying there. We're just branching out and expanding our repertoire. A bit like when popvinyls.com spun off from Vinylmation Kingdom, and it's become a huge success. So this is what we're hoping with. So you'll be able to get loads of information on this. Just like to remind everyone, we have got an Olaf competition. If you want to win a snowman, I've got that one in hand, ready to go. Like I say, we try to make it as try to get as many people as possible able to enter, so you can enter as many ways as you want, as many times as you want. It literally was just there to get as many people as possible chance to do it at the same time we launched the website. So there we go. So that is all the news. Loads of news this week. I've kind of had to rush through it all because of time restraints, but I'd love to know what you guys think, specifically on this thing of the lack of Disney Store products now, the Generation Ear, the event not having any Vinylmation, and also just trade boxes going in general. I'm probably going to touch on this next week if there's been no news as well, and kind of try and go in a little bit more into it now we've had time to get through it. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to check us out at VinylmationKingdom.com. Remember, you can also check us out at DizKingdom.com. And remember to hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button on iTunes as well. And just thank you very much for watching, and see you guys later.